Hello. That handsome, swarthy, GQ wannabe gentleman is yours truly. Newton, Charles Newton. Author, screenwriter. I wrote and pitched a custom screenplay for the Kardashians and Jenners late 2018. Here's the mock movie poster. I know what you did to me, with the tagline, "A family secret to die for." I was inspired by "I Know What You Did" last summer. If you'll recall, the antagonist was a fisherman. That detail is very significant. As their first family feature, a horror story, the box office projections were very lucrative. I'm also first cousin to the belated Thaddeus L. Coleman. He went missing on April 14, 2023. 2 weeks later, on April 29, 2023, a fisherman recovered his body in Lake Erie at the marina. What an amazing coincidence, right? However, about a month earlier, defendant Kanye West, aka Ye, had posted to Instagram around March 2nd, 2023, an image of himself appearing as a faceless fisherman standing in front of a storage unit. I had packed up and placed my belongings in storage 3 months before, in December 2022. Interesting. Then later that month, Mr. West's now ex-wife, Kim Kardashian, posted a series of images where she appears in a fish scale jumpsuit. Is she a fish of some sort? Enter Exhibit F. Approximately 1 month following defendant Kim Kardashian's publication of her "I'm a Fish, Posing with a Boat" in Early Morning series, on April 29, 2023 at 3:30 a.m., an individual fishing for walleye in Lake Erie discovered the body of my cousin floating in the water. In his statement, the manner of how he was fishing before the ghastly discovery almost reflects Miss Kardashian's images. Was my cousin's demise premeditated and covered up as self-deleted? Note the fisherman's own words. "I was fishing and shined my light in the coral between East 55th and 72nd and saw a body and called 911. I was looking for walleye. Their eyes glow in the dark. Unfortunately, that's all I saw." Why does this tragedy have the same storyline as the pitched screenplay and the one that inspired it? Pardon the pun, but something fishy is going on here. It felt as if this was a sinister flip of the script. The title, "I Know What You Did to Me," came back to haunt me. The tagline, "A Family Secret," was the Los Angeles, California causes of actions. They were worth dying for. You should have heard of us by now, but I suspect that allegedly the press and media have been muted by the high-profile defendants that I have sued in district and currently circuit court. Which brings me to my current role. Federal litigator/law student, court judge. J. Philip Calabrese, appointed by President Donald J. Trump in his first term on December 3, 2020. The image to the right is the Carl B. Stokes U.S. Courthouse. I want you to pay special attention to the architectural design, or specifically the silhouette of the building. We're going to explore that in a future episode. Here are my adversaries and high-profile defendants. Do you recognize any of them? I filed the case on January 5th, 2024. On October 22nd, 2024, by a surprise move, the district court judge closed the case. Talk about a sucker punch. That date alone is highly suspicious. Defendant Kim Kardashian's birthday was just the day before. Allegedly, closing the case had major civil and criminal implications was the perfect birthday present. Nevertheless, justice demanded that I pursue the case in the U.S. Court of Appeals 6th Circuit. Now, before you reach for the remote and presume this is clickbait or a frivolous lawsuit, hear me out, please. I assure you, as if I was under oath, everything that I just disclosed to you and more to come are undeniably true. February 2018, I left Cleveland, Ohio for Hollywood, California. After a successful podcast with Dan Zupaski's True Murders and the many favorable feedback and comments for my first true crime memoir, Emerging Cleveland Strangler, the Bernice Scratcher Untold Story, I sought out a lead actress for the story. First, Cleveland native Halle Berry. Remember Vivian in Jungle Fever? Only this true story is Pretty Woman meets Jack the Ripper. Halle didn't respond. So, I continued to pitch to other actresses that appeared to share some of Bernice's attributes. I did get a surprise request for the script from a major production company. The global pandemic hit. I filmed a scissor reel. The production company apparently passed on the story. As a Plan B measure, as previously mentioned, I wrote a custom screenplay for the mega reality TV family, The Kardashians. It was to be their very first feature, a horror story starring socialite Kim Kardashian. I pitched it to the entire family via Instagram group DM. As you just saw, it included a synopsis, mock movie poster, mini storyboard, and mock box office projections to highlight the film's potential. This possible franchise projected $1 billion worldwide. They didn't respond. However, it is well known a receiver, before they either accept or decline, can clearly view the proposed contents. The first draft was registered with the Writers Guild of America West. In hindsight, allegedly, they hacked into my laptop and stole my intellectual property. I Know What You Did to Me, which was inspired by the original 1997 release of I Know What You Did Last Summer. In the latter, again the antagonist was a fisherman. In the custom script starring Kim Kardashian, she is accidentally killed during a sibling prank. To protect her surviving daughters, momager Kris Jenner disposes of Kim's body in the ocean behind the wheel of a Lamborghini. She reports to the insatiable press and media, Kim has disappeared. Fast forward 5 years later to 2023. After the Los Angeles Superior Court lawsuit for cybersecurity and invasion of privacy, my cousin, Thaddeus Lawrence Coleman, 33, disappeared April 14, 2023. 2 weeks later, April 29, 2023, his floating corpse is discovered by a fisherman at the Cleveland Marina. How did life imitate art in such a horrific way? You don't have to be Sherlock Holmes, the famous detective, to connect the dots to those who caused my cousin's demise. Thaddeus' abandoned car was found at Forestdale Park. It has a large pond. According to the medical examiner, he walked approximately 5 to 6 miles to the marina and, I quote, intentionally drowned self in lake. At approximately 5'9" and 200 pounds, with a car, why would he exit his vehicle and walk that distance? If ending his own life was his intent, why not do it right at the park inside the pond? Allegedly, the authorities know that premise is implausible. The facts and evidence scream foul play. Allegedly, it's all a cover-up to protect the high-profile defendants in the Los Angeles Superior Court civil action. After an analysis of their social media accounts, what I discovered confirmed my suspicions. When the flight ban was lifted due to the COVID pandemic, I returned to Ohio. Priority number 1 was the East Cleveland Police Department and the Cleveland Metro Parks Police Department, where Thaddeus' body was recovered from the marina. Unbeknownst to me, I was literally walking into an ambush. Much more on that later. As you know, on January 5th, 2024 in Cleveland, Ohio District Court, again I sued the high-profile defendants for allegedly conspiring to have Thaddeus abducted and murdered in retaliation for a civil suit I dismissed without prejudice, Los Angeles Superior Court, March 2023. Now, for the long-awaited theme of this first episode. On July 1st, 2024, I posted on my website, justicefortlc.com, an open letter addressed to the U.S. Attorney, Northern District of Ohio, Rebecca C. Lutzko. I also mailed her a hard copy on the same date. Here is the exact letter. You can pause and read this groundbreaking whistleblower letter. I kept in contact with the office with subsequent emails. This Gmail index verifies that. By October 22nd, 2024, a day after defendant Kim Kardashian's birthday, the district judge, in a surprise move, closed the case. Even a 5th grader can see there's something suspicious about this timing. Less than 2 weeks later, Donald J. Trump was elected as the 47th President of the United States. Despite this travesty of justice in the District Court, I quickly filed an appeal with the U.S. Court of Appeals, 6th Circuit. Again, I reached out to the Ohio U.S. Attorney Rebecca C. Lutzko. I sent her and the Cleveland FBI the complete principal brief on December 10th, 2024. The poster tracking showed that each received their respective copies on December 12th. Now, take a wild guess. What do you think happened next? 3 weeks later, out of nowhere, U.S. Attorney Rebecca C. Lutzko announced her resignation. In the press release dated January 3rd, 2025, the reason for her abrupt departure was undisclosed. I've seen many cause and effect scenarios involving this nefarious case. This feels the same. Allegedly, she either left due to fear of tangling with the high-profile defendants, or she was coerced to step down. My spidey senses were tingling yet again. Something is off here. July 18, 2025, I filed my final reply brief. On July 23, 2025, U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi of the U.S. Department of Justice appointed President Donald J. Trump's nominee, David Topher, the U.S. Attorney of Northern District of Ohio. Former U.S. Attorney Rebecca Lutzko's departure was allegedly a retaliatory resignation. It obstructed justice, blocking due process of the out-of-state high-profile defendants' heinous crimes. It chilled a whistleblower's free speech and violated the Department of Justice protections for whistleblowers. Her negligence after receiving a protected, date-stamped legal document, my appellant brief on December 12, 2024, was a tort or legal harm that harmed my reputation and caused intentional infliction of emotional distress. Thankfully, the redress is FTCA. That stands for Federal Tort Claims Act. It allows private citizens to sue government agencies for their negligence and wrongful conduct. Although U.S. attorneys have qualified immunity, this abrupt retaliatory resignation with an undisclosed reason was outside the scope of her official duties. Therefore, I present to the Court of Public Opinion Exclusive Exhibit 1, SF-95, that is Standard Form 95. I have sued the U.S. government for $500 million for former U.S. Attorney Rebecca C. Lutzko's negligence and retaliatory resignation targeting a whistleblower. Former U.S. Attorney Northern District of Ohio Rebecca C. Lutzko was repeatedly contacted with letters and legal filings regarding high-profile defendants who allegedly conspired in the abduction and aggravated murder of Mr. Newton's first cousin, Thaddeus L. Coleman, 33. Retaliation for a civil lawsuit filed in Los Angeles Superior Court, 2022. Ms. Lutzko's retaliatory resignation obstructed justice, muted free speech, and silenced a whistleblower, all in violation of his civil rights and DOJ policies. She was initially contacted July 1, 2024 by certified mail, followed by numerous emails. Lastly, on December 12, 2024, she was provided with a complete copy of Mr. Newton's 64-page appellant brief filed with the U.S. Court of Appeals. Surprisingly, she stepped down January 3, 2025, after less than 2 years of her appointment. The reason was undisclosed in the official press release. All inferred to documents are attached. Note, Ms. Lutzko was appointed by former President Joe Biden. Her replacement, U.S. Attorney David M. Topher, was nominated by President Donald Trump and later appointed by U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi. Defendants Kim Kardashian and Kanye West, aka Ye, have close personal ties to the current president. As of September 4th, 2025, the U.S. Department of Justice has this official notice. Next time on Undisclosed, Defendant Kim Kardashian, Episode 2. I'm not crazy. That's your Cleveland Parks logo. Kim Kardashian on April 17, 2023, 3 days after my cousin's disappearance, via Instagram, she covertly revealed where my cousin's body was located before it surfaced 12 days later, April 29, 2023. Mr. Newton, that's a bit of a stretch, don't you think? Sir, with all due respect, I'm a Google certified data analyst. I'm trained to analyze data for hidden patterns and revelations. If you look closely, the tub of red ice with a straw held up before a tree in the background, all collectively is undeniably a cryptic inference to your logo. What does the red flavor ice and straw mean? Murder. Red rum spelled backwards is murder. In place of rum is a straw. With a straw, you breathe or suck in air. Not for someone murdered, then dumped in the Lake Erie Marina within Cleveland Metro Park's police jurisdiction. Now I see our logo. And I see probable cause for an arrest. A few hours after the interview, I had a rude awakening. This department may be co-conspirators in this awful tragedy.